So I've been heavily focused on just continually watching this Warren Buffett shareholders meeting from Berkshire Hathaway that they had on Saturday, and just trying to pick out lessons that I can learn from some of the things that he's talking about and some of the things that he just keeps on sharing. And to be honest, nothing he said is necessarily new. Nothing he said is necessarily that different. However, the way he framed it this time around just ignited some thoughts in my head. And I wanted to share a little clip, a little segment of that speech that he gave at the very beginning of the meeting that I think is very helpful for a lot of us who are just starting out investing, for a lot of us who are seeing everything that's going on in the market right now, for a lot of us that saw a lot of people make all kinds of money last year. And I think this clip, this little portion of the presentation that he brings up is worth for us to think about as we start our investing journeys, especially for those of us that haven't been investing for more than like 2 years. I think this is going to be some great advice when we're seeing everything that's going on right now, whether it's in Bitcoin, whether it's in stocks, whatever. We're seeing the craziness. I think this clip can definitely help us just think through what's going on right now.
Secondly, people get enormously attracted to various industries. I mean, they think if you know, if a company says it's in the XYZ industry and that's a popular one, you can sell IPOs, you can sell SPACs, people disregard sales numbers, earnings numbers. It's just, it's the place to be. So Berkshire Hathaway, where was the place to be in 1903 when my dad was born in 1903, but that wasn't really that big of news. But and it wasn't big news that actually Henry Ford was starting the Ford Motor Company. He'd failed a couple of times before, but he was about to change the world. I mean, the auto, when you think about everything, we've got a great auto insurance company, but if there weren't any autos, we wouldn't have Geico. But it transformed the country. And Henry Ford brought in the $5 daily wage, and that was a huge thing. Assembly lines, everything, autos came along. So let's just assume that you had seen a quick glance back in 1903 of all the interstate highways, 290 million vehicles on the road in the United States, everything about it. And you say, well, this is pretty easy. It's going to be cars. It's going to be autos.
So he sets it up. He's like, what if you knew back in 1903 that the cars were going to be the next big thing, that we were going to build out infrastructures to fit cars, that we were going to set everything up so that cars could be, that basically everybody in the United States almost has a car, that almost to get around, to get to any place, you need a car. What if that was the setup? And you knew this going forward, much like if you are not living under a rock, everybody knows that electric vehicles are the future. Everybody knows that AI is the future. Everybody knows that data is the new oil. It's not like we're living under a rock. It's not like nobody knows these things. Everybody knows these things. But now the question is, you know this, so how are you going to invest? The question is, you know that this is how this is going to progress, but how are you going to invest? So he brings up like the number of companies that were in the automobile industry at that point in time. The number of companies that were trying to do exactly what Henry Ford did when he started the Ford Motor Company. So let's just look at how that turned out.
So I decided to look at the history, and I thought I'd put up the list of auto companies from over the years. And I was originally going to put up just the ones that were the M's so I could get them on one slide. But when I went to the M's, it went on and on and on. So I just decided to put up the ones that started with MA. And as you can see, there were almost 40 companies that went into the auto business, just starting with MA, including our Marmon there in the middle column, and which lasted for a while, quite a while. It was selling cars in the 1930s were really quite special. But in any event, there were at least 2,000 companies that entered the auto business because it clearly had this incredible future. And of course, you remember that in 2009, there were 3 left, 2 of which went bankrupt. So there is a lot more to picking stocks than figuring out what's going to be a wonderful industry in the future. The Maytag company put out a car. Allstate put out a car.
That's the thing. Like, just because you know an industry is going to be the next big industry, or an industry is going to be the industry to be in, doesn't mean that you know which specific stocks are going to do well. I mean, we can look back at the dot-com bubble, for example. There were a lot of companies that today we're using that came from that, but there's a lot of other companies that failed during the dot-com bubble pop-it. I mean, think of Yahoo. Yahoo is not, I mean, they're still popular. This was done on Yahoo's finance, but Yahoo was a lot bigger back then. Think of AOL. There were so many other companies. The only ones that really survived from the dot-com bubble is what? Amazon, Google. That's basically it. eBay. At 3 that come to mind immediately that survived after the dot-com bubble. So picking stocks is not just, hey, I know exactly what industry is going to be the next big industry, so I know exactly what's going to happen. And we're seeing the exact same thing happening right now. We have all kinds of SPACs for EV companies. Everybody is releasing an EV SPAC, whether it's for charging stations or for manufacturing the car itself. And then on top of it, everybody is estimating that they're going to be able to break Google's record of reaching $10 billion the fastest. And everybody's just pumping money into it. Or let's say AI. Everybody's just like, AI and data are the next big thing. So every company, any company that comes out and says, oh yeah, we're going to use AI and data to do this, everybody's like, give them money, give them money, give them money. But that's not how this works, which is why Warren Buffett advises for us to actually like take a step back, not to invest in IPO'd companies, not to invest in brand new companies. Because if you look back on this list, if you look at this list, there are companies in here that will only, look at this, making 2 years. 2 years that this company was alive for. Madison, 4 years. Marlboro is a cigarette company. It's a cigarette company. 3 years. Maytag, 1 year. So you don't know what's going to happen. You want to see, can this business last? Does this business have staying power? That's why it's important. And even as an investor, if you're trying to pick stocks, one of the things you have to actively keep doing is checking up on the business. Because like he said, there were only 3 car companies as of 2009, and then 2 went bankrupt. And all we had left was Ford. And then eventually GM got bought out. Chrysler also got bought out. Now we only have 3, and that's Ford, GM, and Stellantis, I think is the last one they call themselves now, that owns Jeep and Chrysler Motors. Don't just jump and say, you know what, Bitcoin is the new thing. So every single coin that comes out, you're like, yeah, put money into it. Is it Doge? Oh yeah, put money into that. SafeMoon? I'm with it. Like, everybody's just following the noise. And this is exactly the same thing in 2000, in 1990 to 2000, when the dot-com bubble busted. Anything that had the thing .com at the end, everyone was putting money into it. A lot of money was made, but a whole lot more money was lost during that time. And we're seeing the same kind of euphoria in this market. So I just want to warn everybody, be careful. Listen to the 90-year-old legend. He's seen a thing or two. He's been around for a while. He's lived through the Great Depression and a lot of other kind of market bubbles that we've had. So please, take your time, do your research, know what companies you're investing into. And if you don't want to do any of that, guess what? Just invest in an S&P 500 fund or a total market index fund or something like that. And you'll be okay. You don't have to pick single stock. You'll be fine just doing that. But anyway, that's all I got for y'all. I hope y'all got 1, maybe 2 things out of this entire thing. And if you did, hit that like button. If you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button. But I'm gonna catch y'all up on the next one. Remember, generosity is always greater than greed. God bless each and every single one of y'all. And I'm out. Peace. My roommate's blending something. Ugh. Whoosh.